It seems like the one thing I've gathered that I do pay attention to. Usually I didn't care. I used to start out not caring what the judges did or thought. I was like, well, I got to go out there. I got to drive
Right.
well. I got to get my marks. I got to do this. But as I kind of learned, like you do really need to pay attention to what these judges want to see, and hopefully they stick to what they say in the
Right.
drivers' meeting,
Mm-hmm.
because that's not always the case either. There's a funny story in Orlando.
Yeah.
I was sitting in the pit with Chris Forsberg back when I shared a pit with him and Alex, and we're watching on his TV there. And he just got a bad score. He just got a 78 qualifying run, which was like terrible for Chris Forsberg. He's all pissed off. And we're sitting there watching the TV. We're watching the qualifying on the TV, and Chelsea's about to go up. And I'm sitting there with him, and he goes, "Watch, Chelsea's going to do everything they said not to do in the drivers' meeting, and they're going to give him a 90 fucking 8." And I'm like laughing. Chelsea went and did everything they said not to do in the driver's meeting, dragging the wheel, locking the front brakes up, and he got like a 93. And then Chris was just so mad, and then he went back out for like his second run because he got pushed to the bottom, and he did like a sick like smoke show fucking run.
Yeah.
But yeah, so what I've been paying attention to this year is they seem to be very much putting more emphasis on the lead.
Yep.
Which I think is the correct move because you cannot have a good chase without a good lead, right? That's like one of the most famous sayings in drifting.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very true. I think you should, in Prospect, the one thing I do like the way they judge, or at least the way they say they judge, and the way I think they uniformly judge for the most part, is they do emphasize the lead run because we're like, our battles are not as good as Pro 1. Like, clearly, right?
Yeah.
Like, we don't have the speed, the proximity, we suck compared to them. But so they like kind of take that into account. They're like, let's really focus on the leads for these guys because they're all gripping their cars up too much. They're all missing zones. So like they've always, I felt, put that emphasis on Pro Spec. Now I see like they're putting that emphasis also on Pro 1, and hopefully they only put more emphasis on that for Pro Spec because I think that is crucial. Back to the Dimitri thing, people are like, oh, he's slow. Like, who cares? He can go out there and do 2 miles an hour on 100 psi tire pressure, and like you can't say that he's doing anything wrong. Like you can't, because in the driver's meeting you have to fill zones, clipping points, smooth like transitions, snap initiations, like all that kind of stuff. No one says you got to go fast. Like whether you agree or disagree with that, like we can have that argument. But the fact is, it's drifting, it's going sideways, and I like the fast. I like the grippy tires. I like running 10 psi on my GT radials and giving her all hell. Like I'm all about that.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like it is drifting, and without a good lead, you can't have a good chase. So hopefully they do put more emphasis on that. To me, it makes me feel better as a driver to just put myself more in a headspace of like, all right, let's focus on our lead. Let's get our good lead runs down because that like is important. One thing I will say that I like too is they've seemed to figure out more what a zero is. Yeah. Right. For the whole time of Formula Drift in the rule book, if you straighten, that is a zero. That was like never a debated topic. Like a zero, if it's drifting. If you stop drifting and you drive straight, that is a zero. I think we all agreed on that for however many years. And then last year, they're like, well, if you go straight for 2 formula drifts, then it's a zero. But if you do 1 formula drift or 1 formula drift 2 formula, but you reinitiate by drift on the second formula drift, why? They just want to create more gray area. If you straighten, you come out of drift, it's a zero. Like that seems like the easiest rule as a judge to just stick to. Yeah. And I know I'm obviously have a lot of grievance on this because that rule I felt like screwed me pretty bad that we won't get into. But like nobody was disagreeing. Like we should be allowed to go straight for a little bit, guys. Like, hey, judges, we should be allowed to go straight for like 2 seconds. Nobody was saying that. No one had that argument. No one was in driver's meeting complaining that they got a zero because they went straight.
Yeah.
So like, why did they change it to like 2 formula? And then in the middle of the season 2, they changed it to 1 formula drift. They didn't really tell anyone.
Yeah, they just dropped it.
That was 1 formula drift. Like, okay, how about it's a zero when you straighten. When you're out of drift, you have to reinitiate. That's something you can pretty clearly see on an overhead camera from the drone. When someone straightens and then has to reinitiate, it's pretty simple to see. All right, I'll stop there. But
No, it's true. I've always said
Right,
I
you're
want
out of it.
rules to make drifting easier to understand, even for people getting into it. And I feel like that rule just made things more complicated.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like I like having the distinct. All right, you do this, it's a 0. You don't. If you obviously, they've tried to make some gray areas with some of the stuff now, which is tough for
Yeah,
new people to get into the
You
sport.
got you got Reese in the chat. He said facts.
I wish you had my back, my dude. You're a homie from the East Coast. I wish you had my back. That's St. Louis.